Hello students, today we will be starting chapter 10 of international relations. It is an introduction of international relations, though it is not that much included in your syllabus, but to know the further the coming lesson, that is of Cold War, you need to have an introduction about what international relations are. So therefore I have divided this lesson into two parts, in two videos. So we'll cover everything in these two videos only. Okay. What is international relation of 20th century? A brief review. Here the dawn of 20th century was almost immediately followed by the outbreak of the First World War, that is in 1914. Everyone knows First World War started in the year 1914. This war continued for 5 long years and was basically a war among the European states, with almost the whole of European continents as the main battleground. Now in this war, on one side was Germany, Turkey, Bulgaria, Austria-Hungary, called the Central Powers. They were called as Central Powers, and on the other allies they were France, Britain, Italy, Russia, Belgium, and your Serbia, Montenegro, Japan, San Marino, and your one more Portugal, Romania, Greece, USA, Panama, Cuba, and so on. So there were one side there were these 5 countries, and the other side there were so many countries. Now the war began in 28 July 1914 when Austria-Hungary declared a war against Serbia, but it soon appeared to almost all parts of Europe. Now the Central Powers were the aggressors, which in defeat the aggressors, but it took them almost 5 years to do so. So Germany were the last to get defeated at the hands of the Allies on 11th November 1918, and the First World War got terminated, but only after inflicting a very heavy loss of life and property upon the human race. Now there are two phases, if we can say, in this war. First is your pre-war system of international relations, the First World War and its impact. Now the First World War, here it gave birth a big jolt to all nations and their mutual relations, and after having developed peacefully during the 19th century, particularly after the defeat of Napoleon in 1815. Now these came to experience a very destructive war which continued for 5 years. The pre-war international system was Eurocentric, and the European states were the key actors of international relations. Almost the whole of Asia, Africa, and Latin America lived in colonies or dependencies of the European states. Here the USA was pursuing the policy of remaining aloof from your European affairs, or US policy of isolationism, and Russia continued to be a weak state under the Tsars. Now all areas of international relations were dominated by the European states, more particularly by Britain, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Austria, and Turkey. Then came your causes of collapse of interwar international system and outbreak of Second World War. The interwar relations among the European nations were conducted under the impact of the faulty peace settlements effected by Treaty of Versailles. Now it was dictated peace, and when the Germans felt that was governed by the objective of economically, politically, territorially, and militarily crippling their country. And the rise of Nazism, which rested on the foundations of aggressive nationalism, racism, militarism, and Hitlerism, pushed Germany towards a new war with France and Britain. But the League of Nations, when it came into existence, the League of Nations was born with the several limitations, and the environment of interwar period made it virtually a helpless international organization. It found it virtually impossible to use its collective security obligations due to the selfishness of its several important members, and further mutual distrust and rivalries among the European states, like you can say France, which got reflected in the form of several security treaties which these signed with some states. So after this socialist revolution of 1917, Russia has become world's first socialist state, imbued with its determination of concentrate fully upon the need of defend its socialism by becoming a powerful country through rapid internal deconstruction, all round socio-economic development. Further, the economic depression of 1930s gave a big volcanic shock to your international economy and made the relations among the nation more stressful and strained. Then the second World War, that was in the year after this, the Second World War broke out, and it was bigger and more destructive war than the first one. On 1st September 1939, when Germany launched its invasion against Poland, on in September 3, 1939, Britain and France declared war on Germany. Now this was how World War started. Second World War started. The Second World War lasted for about 6 years, that is from 1939 to 1945, and after some initial successes, the Axis power began losing its war, particularly after German invasion of the USSR in 1941. By 1943, the Allies were successful in heading towards the victory against Italy. Then, after securing several successes in the war during 1941 and June 1942, Japan also began suffering a defeat at the hands of the Allied powers in the general and the USA in Kong, which has been occupied by Japan, were liberated by the USA-led Allied forces. By the spring of 1945, the Anglo-American forces were in the position to break the Japanese strength in Pacific. So what happened at that time? This is a very interesting one, that for defeating the adamant Japan, like the USA decided to use atomic bombs, and on 6th August 1945, atomic bomb was dropped on the Japanese city of Hiroshima, and 2 days later, on 9th August, another atomic bomb was dropped on the Japanese city of Nagasaki. Now the huge near loss of life and property suffered by the people of these two large industrial cities compelled Japan to surrender, and it was formally done on 14 August 1945. Now this brought the final end to the Second World War. Then there is pre-war system of international relations. The first, this I have already explained you. This is the same which I just explained you about the both of them. And now in the next video we will be studying about the post-war, that is post 1945 international relations. So thank you everyone, take care.